All right, so to start this project out, I have to build some support for the overall structure. I used 2x8s and after doing this, I realized 1x8s would have sufficed. So if I was to do this over again, I would just say get some 1x8s. And all I'm doing is securing this to the studs. The overall dimensions of this, I went with 78 inches wide, and then it's the height of the ceiling, which is 8 feet. And the reason why I'm mounting these to the studs is so that my frame, which will be on the outer side, has something to mount to because my studs did not land there. Again, I would go with the 1x8s only because the 2x8 stuck out pretty far and made it a little more difficult when nailing on the shiplap to the sides. So once I got the main part of the structure on there, I started to frame out each side of the media center, and I went about 15 inches wide in total.
That's how much nails you need?
You know what I gotta do is put glasses on you though.
What about this side?
Yeah, we're doing that side too. Put glasses on first.
Where do you want me to put the nails?
Better than nothing. Better than nothing. We're gonna do it right. Schmigma. So same spots. Yep, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Good. Now I'm going to include best possible in the description all of the loud noise. All the tools that I used, including everything like the fireplace itself, some of the handles for the side, TV mount, the sink box. I'll have all this stuff included in there. So if I miss anything, leave a comment and I'll try to update that as I can. Now, once I had the whole frame built out in there, I initially got it secured with the 3-inch wood screws, and now I'm starting to frame up the interior portion. Right? Good job. And look at the line. See how you can still see it? That means we cut it just perfect. Thank you. And this is all day one. So day one was completely from going to the store, buying materials, to framing the whole thing up, getting it ready to start shiplapping in. I do learn a quick lesson here you'll see in a second. Oh, it's heavy as fuck, this shit.
What just happened?
You okay?
Yeah. Because the staples didn't hold, I guess. Oh.
What happened during building?
It fell apart.
Did the staplers not be strong enough?
No, because I didn't buy strong enough staples, so I did this.
Why didn't you just use nails?
Because I didn't think about that. So I put it all back together, and this time I held in with one screw in each board so I can take it inside. Now, once I roughed it in, I then said, okay, I'm going to put in more screws to hold it together. Now I secured this to each side and ensured that everything was nice and sturdy. And that was day one. So now we are starting on day two. And the reason why I waited was because that fireplace didn't show up until day two. I worked in the morning and I came back and said, I'm going to finish this project today, at least the frame out and everything. So the very bottom board, the most important part is just getting it to be level. And then after that, checking level as you're going up. I took measurements to do the side. Once I got everything in place, I was able to then test fit the fireplace and see how it looks to make sure the gaps were all covered. At this point, it was just a matter of measuring and cutting all the shiplap so that it was easier to cover with the 1x3 trim boards. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I stopped for a second. I've got the shiplap framed in. I test fit the actual fireplace to make sure that the trim covers around everything that I would like it to, and it does. I'm on to a section now where I've got to put in my shelves because I want to do a shelf in this area and then one down lower to be able to put stuff like the Apple TV and other miscellaneous gadgets. The issue is that on here, you can see the box I put in prior, which really isn't going to get used besides the electrical, is a little bit lower, and I don't really want to have my shelf running like on top. I just want to make it be like fluid. So I'm going to Sawzall this out here because I can't pull the screws out of there anymore, and then take the screws out of here, and I'm going to drop this down just far enough to where it falls in line with this. And then I got my stud location still marked, so I'm going to put a 2x4 bracing it on the back. One 2x4 will also go here to here, and then on the back side here I'm going to run up the piece of board to just block that side. So there'll be a flat board here, and I won't really yeah, I'll put a board in between here as well so stuff can't fall in this way down lower. And I'm gonna do the same thing down below. Obviously this isn't a big deal to be blocked off, so I'm gonna run the sheet down 2x4 level with that exact one there, and then I'll be framing in the actual wall here that will have a door that you can access with a couple of knobs to like lift it up out of the shiplap. I think all the way to the floor. So I'm gonna have like I might do separate doors, or actually I might even just do one big door, because this side is not visible to anything unless you are over there, and there's normally going to be that ladder rack that's going to be there over here. So I think that this will do it. So the shelf build out took the longest, getting everything set up properly. The first shelf was no problem. The second shelf, I ran it a little bit too low to where it overhung where the fireplace is going to set in. So I had to modify that. It was kind of a pain in the butt. So if you do the bottom shelf or the second shelf, do it a little bit higher than the fireplace will sit so you don't run into that issue like you're seeing me address right there. Now, once I got that test fit, I had to read instructions to figure out how it's held into place, which required more 2x4s going in behind to frame in so it has something to mount onto. And this was a process. This is at 100 times speed, in case you're wondering, so it took a little while to get this to fit right, but if you don't do this, then the rest of the process can be a little more difficult. Once that was set, now it's just running to the top. What I did, there was a small gap at the top, so I had to rip some boards on the table saw to fit into that crevice, so that way the trim board would fit up there. So now I'm building the doors for the shelves, and here's my plan. I saw this on another video of a very popular YouTuber whose name I can't remember, and I'll probably credit that somewhere in this video. But essentially, the way to build it is putting a 2x4 here. You gotta make sure you leave space for where you have your like framing so that they don't bump into each other. And then I bought some, what do you call them? Like a $10 knob or a 10-cent knob for a drawer. Just something basic I'll put on here later. These are also some of my kind of scuffy boards that I didn't like exactly, but this is like the non-scene side. So this will sit in here. I'm going to continue all the way up to about here. So it'll be like one big panel that I can just pull away. And I think I ordered knobs like a typical knob, but I think I'm gonna get handles, like a gate type handle that I can order. So yeah. Now I wanted to record this so you saw how I was able to cut. How I was able to cut away the baseboard without having to remove the whole thing and still keep it very tight fitting. So I just dry fit the door up there and then a piece of the trim's width to determine what will fit in there, and you'll see here in a second how that works. Bingo. Now it dry fits in there, so I know that when I put the final trim, it'll be perfectly fine. Now, one thing I learned on stapling all this together is that you want to make sure you match the board up that you cut, which I will talk about that here shortly as well, because I had a lot of uneven looking boards and had to redo it. On the side of the door, talking to the camera, babe.
Oh, sorry.
I put numbers on my cuts for each one of these, so when they fell out, I knew where they went. So I had like an 8, and then I'd have an 8 on here. So I stacked them up so they matched similar, because on the first side, closest to the wall, nothing matched up well, and it's gonna look uglier, but it's what it is. This way, hopefully it looks less ugly. Also, by cutting these narrower, I now have no area for this side to sit on the inside, so I'm going to add a little fake stud. You'll see what I mean here. There's no support on the left, it just will fall inward. So all I'm going to do is, I've got plenty of scrap wood, just going to tag one on there so it'll have some support. I also didn't mention how I did the trim boards. So the two front facing ones that run vertical, I actually ripped another 1x3 and I stapled and glued them together to build a 90-degree angle, and then I used wood filler to kind of cover up some of the crevices. So this part now, I'm just caulking the whole thing, getting all the corners caulked. Katie is filling in all the nail holes so that when you paint over it, it will look like there was no nail holes there at all. Today is painting day. This is day 3. So the first 2 you saw were just 2 days of work. And you're probably wondering, why is it green? Because the thumbnail showed white. And I'll tell you that we thought green was going to look good, but after doing the green, it was a small space, and it kind of made the room feel smaller, and this took a while. We spent a good amount of time getting this painted green, and it'll skip to when it is painted white. But what I would say is, we ended up using ChatGPT and took a photo of this afterwards and had it be tested as white and green when it's finished, and that helped us make a decision. So instead of learning the lesson like we did and spending a couple hours painting it and then having to repaint it, take a photo, put it on ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT to paint it whatever color you want, and then you'll know if you like it or not before you do this painting. So that's why I added this in here, so I can just talk about that for a second to save somebody else time, effort, energy, and money that we spent. And this is after Katie had gone through and done like 2 coats of white, and I'll tell you the dark green was hard to cover, but this is the final product of it being painted white. We're going to touch up some spots, and we made a few touch-ups throughout afterwards where the green kind of bled through once it was dry. So this is the process that it took us 2 days to fully do. So all these pre-drilled holes on here did not line up with any of my studs because this was centered. The arrow that was there lined up my stud, but the center of my wall did not. So I drilled some new holes to line up. I'm still going to use these other ones, but these more wood screws, I'm just going to put the 3 into the actual studs, and then the rest will go into the shiplap, and here we go. The Amazon kit only gave like some of these basic screws here and then the 3-inch wood ones. Because it's only shiplap, I'm just going to put these small guys into the pre-drilled holes. I use the 3-inch ones going into the studs. And this mantle was only like 120 bucks. I priced out making my own with 1x8s and the scrap wood and glue and stain. And I was going to spend about that anyways, so I'd rather save the time and energy and just buy the Amazon one. For mounting this up, I marked out a small line for the edge of this, so that way it was 10 inches and a quarter on both sides of the mantle. That way it's centered with the fireplace. And then I had originally marked off where the studs were under here. And so before I mounted this up, I put a piece of tape and I ran where my studs are at. So when I mount the TV, I will know where that's at instead of having to go back in behind here again and then remeasure and then retape. So a couple of tips that might save you a few minutes. Now, once I get the mantle installed, I'm going to get the TV mount centered on here. My studs did not line up with my TV mount, so I am running on one stud in the center because you can't secure it to the shiplap. It is not structural. It is held on by the brad nails. So make sure that if you are doing this and you have your studs set in a certain area, that it lines up well so it's all centered. All right, final product. Here it is all set up. Have the Hue sink box lights attached to it. Wall mount. Had to angle it pretty far forward due to the new viewing angle of the couch. Everything is set up on these doors, which they are drying outside. They've got the sink box and they've got storage. Stuff like Xbox switch, all the HDMI cables. Cable management's pretty smooth. Bought a little 2-inch cutout on Amazon that came with the actual drill, the drill attachment for like 10 bucks. And it went in there no problem. So this is the final So I wanted to show this during daytime because I feel like the nighttime just didn't do it full justice. Everything that you see on here is pretty much how the room is currently set up. Katie has ordered some plants to give it some more life. But on the right side here, you'll see I went with handles instead of actual knobs. The handles really help to take this door off. You can see I can do this single-handedly. There's a couple of cabinet magnets down at the bottom that I put on here to hold it in place so it doesn't fall off from just walking around the house, or if kids are jumping around, it's not going to shake it loose. That's been really great. The rest of the stuff in these other cabinets down there is like all the other electronics, which you can see no wires coming out of. Now behind the TV is the sink lights. This sink box we've used for the last 5 years has been great. Really adds to the experience of just watching a movie or watching TV in general. So overall, we love it. This has been like a pretty fun project. Overall cost was right around $1,000 for everything. So if you are going to give this a shot, hopefully this video helps, and I'll see you guys on the next video.